G'day guys, you're back with Miracle Max. Today in the workshop we have a Harley Davidson 883XL 2009 model Sportster. What we're going to be doing is changing the oil and filter. So let's get into it. Changing the oil on your Harley, it's important to realise how the oil circulates around the engine. It uses what's called a dry sump system. So in other words, generally speaking, you would have a oil or a sump down in here to retain all the oil. In this case, it's not kept there. It's kept in a reservoir tank, which is up over there. So what can happen is if you don't check your oil after you've run the motor for a little while, all that oil can go back, drain back toward the engine and not give you a correct reading within your reservoir tank itself. So in other words, your little dipstick over here would not read correct. So it's important to run your engine for a little while so that it circulates and then gives you a correct reading. Also, the position of the bike needs to be on the kickstand, not held vertically. Otherwise you'll once again get an incorrect reading. So I've run the bike for a little while just to get the oil nice and warm, although the customer dropped it off not so long ago, so it is fairly warm anyway. I'm using a fairly low profile tray, as you can see here, because otherwise you just can't get it under the bike. I've got it on the kickstand as mentioned before, and what Harley do in all their wisdom is they provide us a little bung here. Now, to me that appears to be just a little bit farm boy for me, because all it is a hose with a plastic bung in it and a hose clamp, and we just undo this little hose clamp here. Hopefully I don't get in your road too much. Get that out the road, pull your bung, and in theory your oil should just drain out very, very nicely. Now my only concern is the fact that I haven't undone it enough. You twit, Max. Let's undo it a fraction more. There we go. Right, so my main concern with this fella here is that it's just a plastic bung. Okay, so you know, you're riding along on the road and you're getting debris on this piece of plastic. It could break. It's near heat. It's only plastic, as mentioned, and I don't want to see that break. That would be the end of your motor if your oil drained out, of course. But hey, that's just my opinion. It's a little bit farm boy for me, but that's what Harley use, and they seem to use it quite a bit on their bikes. As you can see, it was time to drain that oil. It's looking pretty dodgy there. We'll put in some nice new clean oil, including a new filter. So as you can see, it's just a hose hanging down and a hose clamp. That's pretty much it, nothing exciting. Okay, so there we go. Last few final drops. Time to put the bung back in. If I can grab a hold of that hose. And sorry if you're out of focus there, people. There we go. And just a matter of tightening up that clamp again. Now don't get overly excited with this clamp. It's not holding any major tension there. We're just trying to stop the oil from draining out again. So you don't want to get overexcited and break the thing. So about a quarter of ugga-dugga, I'd say, should be fine. We can pop that back into place now. That is now ready. Okay. Let's have a look at that oil filter next. Not a sponsor on both, but I'll be using Castrol Power 1 10W40. That's what's recommended. It's a 4T oil, and also a genuine chrome oil filter from Harley Davidson. The pricing of Harley Davidson, I'm surprised, is actually quite comparable to non-genuine parts, so I'm going to opt for genuine parts in this case. So there you go, they're the two parts that I'll be using today. This particular motor takes about 2.8 litres to fill, including the filter, so I've got plenty of oil up my sleeve. So let's stick on that oil filter. To try and stop all the oil from the oil filter draining all over the frame, I've made up a little bit of a cardboard channel, if you will, and just made up a little gallery for it to follow down into, and that should in fact go down into my drain tin, I hope. Let's see if it works or not. Firstly, I've got to undo that filter. 9 times out of 10, most people over tighten oil filters. They don't need to be super tight. They only need to be hand tight. So I've got an oil filter remover here. Let's see if that's going to work on this particular filter. See if it gets a grip. Get a grip! Perhaps not. And of course someone's over tightened it as well. That doesn't help matters. Let's take it back a notch or two, see if we can get a better bite onto it. Yep, it's just starting there now. Just trying to hold some extra tension on it with my hand. Oops. Okay, there we go. Yes, people do love to over tighten these things, but there's absolutely no need for it. The pressure in them is not high enough to overcome your tension that you do by hand. There we go, a bit more. Man, she was tight. Let's see if this little cardboard fella is going to do the job that I hope it to do. Okay, not too bad. It's working quite well. Even my little trap down the bottom there is working fine. So I'll just let that drain for a little while before I pull it off entirely. There might be a fraction that you've got to tidy up afterwards with a rag or a bit of brake clean or something, but it's heaps better than trying to dig it all out of the frame and, you know, the customer gets it on their driveway, etc. So that's just not on. But this should be okay. There is a whole debate about whether you should fill up your oil filter before you screw it on or leave it dry. I don't mind leaving it dry, doesn't particularly bother me, they prime up no problems. However, one important thing is to always make sure that you put some clean oil on this seal here. Wipe off your old oil around the frame here, around the surface, and make sure that that is nice and clean. But as for this, make sure we have some new oil on here to make sure that you end up with a good seal. So with that surface now nice and clean and oil on my seal surface here, I can now screw it into place. And just doing it up hand tight, one hand is enough to put heaps of tension on it. Of course you've got the guns happening here, but never mind. There we go. Nice. Right, we can remove our cardboard and hopefully we've got all our oil, or the majority of the oil. It's just a fraction down in here that I need to tidy up, but I'll get to that. But the rest of it is nice and clean. Just get to that before it goes down any further. Bit of a wipe over there, make sure it's nice and clean. And look at that. It's like you were never there. And I also like to get a nice clean rag and just tidy up that chrome surface there, just so it shows that you care, that you haven't got all your little grotty fingerprints all over it. That looks good to me. Done. And before you say anything, yes, I'm quite well aware of the fact that the seat is off. Reason being is because I've charged the battery. The customer had a flat battery this morning, so I'm just putting it on charge for him. So to fill our engine, we need to push down on this little bloke here, our dipstick, and this particular one is quite stiff to turn. You do about a 90-degree turn, you pull him out. It's got sort of a spirally looking thing on it, like a 90-degree spiral, and then this section here clips down as well to give it that nice flush appearance. Put in a funnel so we don't lose anything. Now we know that this takes about 2.8 litres to fill, including the filter, so I'm going to start with about 2 litres. Now the beauty of this particular container, of course, is that there's increments on the side. So there we've got 1, there we've got 2. So round about there is where I'll fill it, and then double check my work afterwards. Our clean dipstick goes back into place. When you put these back in, just be aware that there's a wide notch here. On the other side there's a narrow notch. So the narrow notch goes that away. So the wide notch comes this direction. So that goes into like that. Should just drop into place like that, but you may have to force it down as you twist it, like that. And that should go down like that. I'll clean all my fingerprints off later. Let's just run it so that we can circulate it through the engine, fill our oil filter, as well as fill up our reservoir tank as well. Of course, another thing is we want to keep an eye on this oil light, make sure that that goes out. We'll just start him up now, put him in the run position, start. And the light's gone off, no props. Just let it run for a little while to warm it up and circulate it through. So now we want to check that oil level again while it's still hot. Turn him around, pull him out, and what do we have here? See that? It's just right on the edge there. Now we want to fill it up more than that, of course. I'll chuck in maybe half a litre and we'll see how we go with that. And we're up to, oh, it's getting pretty close to the top. They do recommend it's between this level and the last level. So in theory that would be okay. I might just top it up just a fraction. Keep in mind that it's not hot at this point in time, so I don't want to get too excited. One last check after I've run it for a short period of time. And we have just nice, I reckon. I reckon that's spot on. Just up to there now. So once it's run hot, it will be perfect. So yeah, happy with that, no problemos. And of course you want to make sure that all your parts are nice and clean. You don't want your fingerprints over anything. You don't want the customer to go, boy, they're a filthy looking mechanic or technician. So you make sure it's always polished up, nice and clean. Schmickoid, mate, schmickoid. So there you have it, guys, a basic oil and filter change on a Harley Davidson 883C XL 2009 model. I really should take it for a ride just to make sure that it's running correctly. Well, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. Well, that was different. Plenty of power, I must admit. It's like riding in an armchair. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video today, guys, and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and feel free to comment down below. Don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. Well, I've got other work to go on with now, guys, so I will leave you with it for now. And until next time, this is Miracle Mac signing off. I will catch you later.